Bob Menendez indicted. Donald Trump drops lower in the polls. Ron DeSantis falls to fifth place in the polls. And a new poll comes out and says that 75% of Americans would be open to supporting a third party if Joe Biden and Donald Trump were the matches in 2024. And so much more, guys. We got a lot to talk about tonight. So, right off the head, I'm going to start with the latest news story. Bob Menendez, the Democratic New Jersey senator, has been indicted, him and his wife, on corruption charges. I had to look more into what's going on with it. I don't really, per se, know too much about it. All I know is there was some sort of, they found $480,000 in his closet crammed in jackets. They found under $120,000 worth of gold bars. Or so the leprechaun would be happy. I'm kidding. And they found a very expensive luxury sports car, and it was in a luxury home. So, excuse me. It was some corruption charge. I'm not sure. This is actually not. Ooh, excuse me again. Sorry, guys. This is not the first time Bob Menendez has been charged, has been indicted. He's going to be prosecuted. This is just a simple matter of, this is the law showing. I don't believe that we should just start indicting politicians randomly to try to get even with each other, but you know what? This is fair. Like I've always said, no matter what the party is, who the person is, how long they've been served, whatever, what part of the country is, how wealthy they are, how much power they have, what political office they have, no one's above the law, even politicians. Right? Like I've said a million times, whether you're poor, average, rich, you're famous, you're not famous, you're fat, you're skinny, you're tall, you're short, you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're Chinese, you're Mexican, you're Latino, you're whatever. You are 20 years old, you're 30 years old, or you're 80 years old, you're a politician, whatever type of job you have, whatever your sexuality is, wherever you live in the country, nobody is above the law. Nobody. Whether you're a liberal, a conservative, a libertarian, whatever. No one is above the law. Nobody. And if you break the law, there is to be an investigation held, a court trial, and then the judge or jury will ultimately decide if you are innocent or not. And if you feel that they didn't work out, you can take it to the higher court. But yeah, like I said, nobody is involved. Nobody is above the law. Nobody. I don't care who you are. And Bob Menendez is in many ways just like Donald Trump. He's very corrupt. I was saying this a while ago, back in 2018 when I was in middle school, that I didn't want Bob Menendez winning re-election because he's a very corrupt senator. Like, he's really like career politician that obviously has not done anything ever to make a difference. But take the politics out of it. He's very corrupt. He's taken a lot of money. There was a scandal years ago with him that he had taken over $80,000 of taxpayer money and bought a yacht, a miniature yacht or something like that. I don't know how true that is. That's just rumor, but I'm not gonna lie, I believe it. I do. I'll make a whole video more detailed into this, but yeah, Bob Menendez indicted. Another thing coming up in the news we're gonna talk about: Ron DeSantis, drops to 5th place in New Hampshire. Whew. And not only has he dropped to 5th place in New Hampshire, but he's dropped another 3 points in the national polls. Oh, this is not looking good for this man. Ron DeSantis, same problems I've always said. He is too radical. Yeah. In many ways, I'm saying this. Now, I was asked this, I want to address this question. I was asked this in the comments. Why is Vivek Ramaswamy regulating with people? Like, going, dramatically good with people? Oh, when his policies are much more to the right than Ron DeSantis is, and he's a little bit more radical than Ron DeSantis, why is he going up in the polls and raising money and stuff, and DeSantis is going down? Now, listen. Like I said before I get into this, I would much rather have Ron DeSantis over Vivek Ramaswamy. I think policy-wise it's overwhelming, even though their policies are very similar, but still. The reason why Vivek Ramaswamy is resonating with people, I mean, one, because he's new to the scene. He's not like a career politician, whatever. Two, he's a very good debater. He's very, not good debater, but very well-spoken. And he's like more down to earth. Where Ron DeSantis seems like he's just, I don't know, he just seems, he's not a people person. I could never be a politician, probably. Because I'm not good at that. I'm not good at going out and shaking people's hands and stuff like that. That's not me. That's not my personality. I mean, sometimes I can be like that. It depends on the situation. But Ron DeSantis clearly does not have that personality. You know, Ron DeSantis does very well in a controlled environment, like where he's the only one speaking and stuff like that. He does very well. But where he's on a debate stage, he's really not that good of a debater. You know, and this past debate, last month, was really, actually a month ago today, it was really just not a good performance. You know, the only good part he had was a good opening speech. That's it. It was you could tell he was prepared. He was actually, I think he was more scripted than Marco Rubio back in 2016. And people didn't like that. You know, and the question is because in New Hampshire, you have 3 other candidates on the rise. You have Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, and Chris Christie, who are going on the rise in New Hampshire. They've all virtually tied each other. They're doing better than Ron DeSantis. You know, I think as of right now, Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie are tied in second place with they both have 13%. They're tied in second, and then Nikki Haley is in third with 10%. Well, so it's technically So Trump's in first place. He's got 35%, and Trump's got 35%. Sorry, guys. Chris Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy are tied in second with 13%. Nikki Haley is in fourth place, I should say, with 10%, and Ron DeSantis has dropped to 5th place with 7%. I mean, he's in single digits. Let's get this through, guys. Ron DeSantis, at one point, was far ahead of Trump. Now back to the thing. Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie and all them are on the rise simply because they are likable. They're talking more sensible. Where DeSantis, I was actually talking with an old teacher of mine the other day, and he thinks that Ron DeSantis is on cocaine. You know, it's a good point. You know, Ron DeSantis does seem kind of jacked up on cocaine or Ritalin or something like that's getting him going. You know, what to find out. I mean, that's a tough thing to say, but you know, I wouldn't put it by him. You know, Ron DeSantis, I will admit, there was a point in time when I liked Ron DeSantis. And I will say this, there have been a lot of policies in Florida that he has put in place that have been very good. And, let's give him some credit tonight. Keeping his state open, opening it back up early, that's a good thing. Banning the mask mandates in schools, that's a good thing in schools. He's done a lot of good things in the schools. Well, yeah, he's really listened to parents. He's gotten the spending cap on Florida. He's responded to COVID very well and the hurricanes very well. He's been a good leader down there. But then there's been things like, CRT, which is just ridiculous, trying to change history. And the racist, not directly racist, but sort of racist comments. And the, this freedom of speech law about criticizing the government or whatever. He is continuing. Ron DeSantis, on a daily basis, continues to go to the right to try to appeal to this broad base of Republicans. It is a very small that, just don't agree with that. But why I stopped liking DeSantis is simply because he's became too radical. And, I used to say that, Ron DeSantis is the one that can unite America. After he won his re-election in landslide, I did say that, he got a lot of Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and Libertarians all together, and other third parties, all together behind him, so he won in a landslide. But the Ron DeSantis of 2021 and 2022, of 2020, 2021, and 2022, is not the Ron DeSantis that's running for president. I'm sorry. I miss the Ron DeSantis that was a good governor who was effective. That's what I miss. Not this cokehead who is just so radical. And to tell you the truth, I was done with DeSantis months ago when he ran radical, but when I was truthfully done with DeSantis was when he defended slavery. No one's going to defend slavery and get respect in my book. There are no good elements of slavery. Slavery is terrible. And for him defending that, he's a terrible person. And I think him saying that right there disqualifies him from the presidency or any other political office to defend that. Alright, so that's just Ron DeSantis. He's in 5th place. Like I said, it's either going to be a Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm still thinking that the last 3 standing are going to be Vivek Ramaswamy, Chris Christie, and Trump. That's what I'm thinking still. I think Nikki Haley might stick around, but DeSantis, I think he'll be out by Super Tuesday. I'm not going to lie. I do. I think that his campaign has just fell apart. We'll just have to see how it goes. Alright, on to the next story. So a new poll done by the New York Times. Ames said, if Donald Trump and they've been doing this poll for months now, if Donald Trump and Joe Biden were to get the nominations again, and it was to be a rematch in 2020, would you be open to supporting an independent or third-party candidate? The number has climbed. So, before I tell you what the number is, when they first did this poll back in the end of July, it was 49%. 49% said they'd be open to supporting a third party if it was Trump and Biden. It jumped up to 59% the next time they did it. The time they did it after that, it was 64%. The time they did it after that, it was 65%. Then it went to 68%. Then it went to 70%. And, well, great news for you today, guys. It is now 75%. 75% of Americans have said that if we have a rematch between Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, and current President Joe Biden, 75% of Americans have said they will be open to supporting an independent or third-party candidate. Same poll was done. 53% of Americans said they will not vote for either. More than half have said they will never vote for either. And another poll was done. I just wanted to do this. These were like local. This one, this is another organization. They did a poll if you would replace Trump with Vivek Ramaswamy, and you'd replace Gavin Newsom, if you'd replace Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom. It does drop down a little bit, but still, 67% said they'd be open to supporting a third party against those two. Guys, it's time. You know, we could be a totally different story next year, but I truthfully believe that a third party is going to rise up in 2024. I do. I don't know if it's going to be Jesse Ventura. I don't know if it's Larry Hogan. I don't know if it's Joe Manchin. I don't know if it's Mark Cuban. Maybe it's Joe Rogan. I don't know. But I'm telling you, there is going to be a third party or an independent that is going to take these two old fools on, or whatever radical socialist or crazed MAGA conspiracy theorists they're going to put up. They're going to be there. And I think they're going to win, guys. I really do. Oh, yeah. On to the last thing I want to talk about. Trump, this supposed thing that this general said at this hearing back in 2019, not this hearing, this ceremony back in 2019, that Donald Trump said about a soldier. I don't want to see that, a wounded soldier. I don't want to see that, nobody wants to see that. He said that to a general. You know, it makes me dislike Donald Trump even more, but I also think it disqualifies him from the presidency, too. Because, you know, you're going to go and say that about someone who put their life on the line, someone who got woundedly hurt, and probably mentally hurt, too, from the war. You know, Donald Trump has always been a guy. You know, Donald Trump is a draft dodger. He's a draft dodger. Through and through. A draft dodger. His father hired a doctor to lie and say he had bone spurs when he did not. There's no proof of it to get out of the Vietnam War. That right there shows him he's a coward. Now listen, I don't want to join the military. I know that I'm not physically or mentally in the best shape to be in the military. But, you know, if the draft would come back, and I were to get drafted, I would do my service. You know what I mean? Now, I hope that doesn't happen, because I really don't. Because I really don't want to serve in the military. I'm sorry, I respect everyone that does, and thank you to everyone that does. I don't want to serve in the military, but if a draft would come back and I were to get drafted, I would do it. I would not be a coward. Or I would defend my country if forced to. I'm not a coward like Donald Trump. That right there is the only thing that disqualifies him. Now, this is why I want more and more third parties, because you got Donald Trump making fun of soldiers, wounded soldiers. You got Ron DeSantis defending slavery. You got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as calling people that speak up and say they criticize their policies. They're being called conspiracy theorists and Russian agents. When all they're doing is speaking up against the big economy. This is why we need a third, fourth, fifth party. We need independence. Let's take these two parties down, guys. Anyways. Alright, guys, that's the news for the past couple weeks. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of everything that's been going on. And, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Thanks again, guys. Please comment on the video, leave a like, and subscribe for the channel. And remember, Jesse Ventura.